She never expected her kindness to become the spark of something far greater. A black intern, unnoticed by many, saw a visitor struggling in silence, cut off from the noise of the world. With a brave smile, she reached out in sign language, offering connection where others turned away. But what seemed like a simple act would soon reveal buried truths about power, prejudice, and perception. Because this visitor was no ordinary man, and the moment their paths crossed, everything changed. What happens when compassion collides with hidden injustice? It was supposed to be just another day. The young black intern moved quietly through the bustling halls of the company, blending into the background where most never noticed her. She was hard-working, eager to learn, carrying dreams far larger than the desk she sat behind. For her, every task, no matter how small, was a step toward a future she believed in. But beneath the polished floors and polite smiles, there were walls she could feel but not see. Walls built from whispers, doubt, and quiet prejudice. She kept her head high, never imagining that a single encounter in this place would test everything she believed about fairness, respect, and her own worth. The moment began so small, it almost went unnoticed. The visitor entered the lobby quietly, his steps unsteady, his gaze searching. He carried the silence of a man who had long been separated from the noise of the world. Some employees looked past him, others with irritation, as though his inability to hear was an inconvenience. But she noticed the young black intern. Without hesitation, she greeted him in sign language. A simple act, a bridge across silence. But kindness, in a place ruled by perception and hierarchy, was not always welcomed. A few co-workers exchanged glances, their whispers sharp enough to cut. Who does she think she is? Their eyes lingered not on the visitor, but on her, judging, dissecting, waiting for a reason to dismiss her. The very act of reaching out marked her as different, as if compassion itself was a crime. Still, she continued, guiding the visitor with patience. His face softened, relief replacing the tension in his shoulders. Yet, just as the warmth of the moment began to spread, the air shifted. A manager entered. His eyes narrowed, not at the visitor, but at her. His words, though polite on the surface, carried an edge, a subtle rebuke, a reminder of her place. In his tone was something more than authority, something rooted in bias, sharpened by prejudice. She felt the sting but stayed composed, refusing to let it show. What she didn't know was that every second of this moment was being watched. The visitor's silence hid more than his deafness. It concealed power. The man she was helping carried influence far beyond the polished walls of that office. And with every whispered remark, every dismissive glance, he was seeing more than they realized. The tension grew. As she continued to communicate with him, others grew restless, their impatience turning into subtle hostility. Papers shuffled louder, voices clipped with irritation. Her heart pounded, not from fear of the visitor, but from the weight of eyes pressing against her, watching, judging, waiting for her to falter. Then came the shift that would turn an ordinary day into a test of character. The visitor gestured toward the conference room, signaling he was here for something important. Confusion rippled across the staff. Why would a man like him be heading there? Why was he being welcomed so personally? Whispers turned into murmurs, and murmurs into stunned silence as the truth inched closer to being revealed. And yet, in that moment before the reveal, the injustice was laid bare. She was treated as lesser for daring to show empathy, while others wrapped themselves in superiority. The irony was cruel, and it was about to come crashing down on them, because the visitor wasn't just another guest. His presence carried weight they could not imagine. And soon, the world inside that office would be turned upside down. The room fell silent as the visitor stepped forward. All eyes were on him, yet the weight of judgment still pressed hardest on her. The intern's chest tightened, the sting of her manager's rebuke echoing louder than the soundless world around the man she had just helped. She had done nothing wrong, only offered kindness. And yet, in the glances and whispers, she was made to feel small, out of place, as if compassion itself had crossed some invisible line. Then came the revelation. The visitor raised his hand, signaling for attention. Slowly, with practiced precision, he signed his identity, his name, his position. A ripple moved across the room. The manager's confident smirk faltered. Gasps broke the silence as realization struck. This quiet, overlooked man was not just another guest. He was the CEO, the very leader they all sought to impress, standing there, having seen every flicker of disdain, every dismissive glance, every subtle act of prejudice. For the intern, the moment burned with intensity. She had been belittled for her act of humanity, judged for daring to reach across difference. Yet now, that very act stood as the one true light in a room full of shadows. The hypocrisy was exposed. The masks slipped. And in the stunned faces around her, she saw fear, shame, and something else. An unspoken acknowledgement that the truth could no longer be ignored. Her heart pounded, not from fear this time, but from the undeniable weight of what had just unfolded. Because in that instant, the balance of power shifted. She was no longer invisible. She was the mirror reflecting their prejudice back at them. And the question that lingered in the air was one no one dared to answer. When kindness reveals the truth, who will be left standing in the light? The moment the truth came out, the room changed. The same voices that once whispered now fell silent, their confidence stripped away. The manager who had spoken down to her avoided the CEO's gaze, his authority crumbling in an instant. And there she stood, the intern who had been treated as invisible, now seen, not because she demanded attention, but because she chose humanity over prejudice. For her, it was a moment of quiet vindication, but also a reminder of the painful reality that it took the presence of power for her kindness to be respected. Had he not been the CEO, would her act have been dismissed? Would her dignity still have been questioned? That question burned deeper than the applause or recognition she later received. Because this story isn't just about one intern, one company, or one surprising reveal. It's about a pattern that repeats in offices, schools, and streets across the world, where prejudice hides behind professionalism, where bias speaks louder than truth, until it's forced into the open. Her act of compassion revealed more than character. It revealed the fragility of fairness in a society still wrestling with racism. And it leaves us with a choice: to stay silent when injustice whispers in the room, or to be the one who reaches across difference, even when it costs us. So ask yourself, when the moment comes, will you be the one who turns away, or the one who chooses to stand in the light?